What's up, guys? This is Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall markets. I'm going to break down some big news that's come out involving Tesla, why Tesla stock is showing some weakness right now as we're below our key EMAs, and some big news coming out involving earnings and President Trump that could be shaking the way the market's going to move for tomorrow. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below, or sign up with my QR code that's right over here. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free NVIDIA stock. Deposits $2,000 to get $50 worth of the stock. Deposit $10,000 to get $300 worth, and deposit $50,000 to get $1,000 of free NVIDIA stock. You also qualify for an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash, and this offer ends very, very soon, so check out my links down below to get free NVIDIA stock. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So, as far as Tesla's going, I just want to mention that we're still technically in this consolidation as we're seeing this very, very large wedge that Tesla's been stuck in, going back and forth for many, many months. Since June, it's been just going back and forth, back and forth. It's been almost a month and a half, almost 2 months of us just trading sideways. But as of recent, okay, Tesla had a high here at 340, came down, made a lower high, came down, made a lower high, came down. And we're continuing to show some weakness with the market. Tesla's still like just barely holding around the low 300s. And there's going to be risk of more downside if this continues. On top of this, the whole market's been coming down a bit for the last week. And this is also contributing to why Tesla's been kind of weak. So please keep that in mind. So the question is, what's affecting Tesla? What is the news saying? What's going to likely happen? As of right now, we're below the 311 zone, which is where our 20 EMA happens to be. We're also below the 315 area, which is where our 200 EMA is. So for now, we're making lower highs and we're favoring a move down towards this trend line. There is still some weakness. On top of this, there's been some news that's come out that Tesla and Elon Musk are being sued by shareholders who say that the robotaxis are violating traffic laws. But you have to keep in mind that with their arguments, they are saying that there's a lot of like issues with the way in which the robotaxi moves. They believe it's not very, very safe, and there's been many false and misleading statements by Elon Musk and such. That's what the lawsuit is basically claiming. It's been filed in federal court on Monday. However, despite this, keep in mind that even in Austin, Texas, there's going to be a human safety monitor there with the passenger seatbelts. And they're going to be on the passenger seat side just to like help out in case anything goes wrong. So they still have those precautions because they're trying to make this as safe as possible. And then in California, they also happen to have someone right over there in the driver's seats just to keep their hands near the wheel in case something goes wrong. So we'll see what this leads to. This is obviously not the best pieces of news for Tesla, but keep this in mind. And then there's also been some news about the European sales. In Germany and the UK, the sales are down. We're seeing lots of headlines about this. Germany saw the sales down 55%. And then we also saw other areas where we started to see big slides in the sales, such as Norway, Spain, France, and other regions. Also in Tesla, the sales are down quite a bit in Germany. We only saw about 1,100 of them sold. And also in China, we saw a decrease in the Chinese-made sales. So we're seeing lots of scrutiny that Tesla's getting. However, despite this, in South Korea, Tesla saw a nice increase in their overall sales. Once again, it's now the number one sold EV there. The Model Y had very, very strong sales, selling over 27,000 units. That's how many newly registered vehicles were there. That's up 23.3% relative to last year. So in South Korea, in some regions, they are still seeing improvements in sales. So I want to be very unbiased when saying this. I know mainstream media tends to focus more on the declines in sales. Even the Chinese-made EV sales are down 8.4%. They reached about 68,000 sales, but keep in mind that it's just a temporary move, at least for the time being. And we're still waiting to see what happens by the end of the quarter. There's still plenty of time left. We just started the quarter, and there's still time for Tesla to make a comeback. Now, despite all this negative news, Tesla's on a bit of a downtrend right here unless we get back above these EMAs. See how these are acting as resistance? So at one point, we were above the EMAs testing this trend line as resistance. We rejected. Then right here, the EMAs became resistance. We came down. We touched the EMA, rejected, touched it again, rejected, touched it, rejected. So now the EMAs, the 20 EMAs acting as resistance, and we have to get back above this to bounce. If we can't do this, we are favoring a move back down to 300, so we'll see how this goes. Now, keep in mind, tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. At 10:30 a.m., we have basically some crude data, and we also have some gasoline data, which is going to be very important. So look for some volatility when that comes out. Might cause a little bit of volatility here and there. Then we have some bill auctions at 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. So look for some volatility then. I don't think it's going to be like a major amount of volatility, but there might be somewhat of a move as a result of this. So keep that in mind for tomorrow. For earnings, we just got AMD and Supermicro right here, which announced their earnings. Both of them are down. We also had Uber, Shopify, and Disney announcing earnings tomorrow before market open. For AMD, we have some not so good news. We had weaker than expected earnings, even as the revenue topped estimates. So EPS is at 48 cents, adjusted below the 49 cents expectation. Revenue's at $7.69 billion below, which is above expectations. But because of the fact that they did miss on EPS, and they did not really give us enough to really get the share price to run because of this right here. The AI business revenue declined due to US export restrictions, which eliminated a lot of their sales to China, and that is once again going to cause them to transition their next gen. As a result of these trade restrictions, that's what the CEO Lisa Su has said. The share price is down quite a bit on AMD right now. It's actually currently down 5% and counting, so it's dumping. Supermicro is also crashing. It's currently down 16.5% and counting. It's now in the 47 area, continuing to fall. So we're seeing a big decrease in the value of lots of these chip stocks. Not the best of news. So for Supermicro, unfortunately, they had to decrease their outlook. Revenue is at 22 billion below expectations, but their EPS was not too bad. Once again, that is still way less than what we saw previously, but the overall numbers were still close to expectations there. And then, unfortunately, they cut their guidance. The guidance was cut. Not the best of news. That's why the share price is down. So I'm not going to go over all the details, but just know that's why we're seeing Supermicro selling off the way it is. Now, there is some news coming out involving President Trump. First and foremost, he's saying that he is willing to make a deal with China and meet up with Xi Jinping if necessary, and that there should be a deal with China coming out. So that is a very, very big piece of news. But despite him saying that, President Trump has a lot of tariff deadlines coming out for August 7th for the majority of countries. So that could also cause volatility because the tariffs are ranging from 10 to 40% depending on the country. Then President Trump said that for the European Union, if they don't commit to their pledge to invest $600 billion into the US, then he's going to be imposing a 35% tariff on them. So he wants them to invest $600 billion, and he claims they pledged this. If they don't do that, a 35% tariff is going to be imposed. President Trump also says that he wants to increase tariffs on any country doing business with Russia and buying Russian energy. That includes China and India. And he's saying that he's not going to give up on that. So that's some big news. Right, you have India doing a lot of business with Russia, buying arms from there and buying oil. And President Trump is not happy about that. He's threatening high tariffs of about 25% on India, plus an additional 10% tariff as a penalty. So that's what President Trump is saying. This is his exact quote. He said, India is not only buying massive amounts of Russian oil, they are then, for much of the oil purchased, selling it on the open market for big profits. Once again, he's going to be substantially raising tariffs on them. Then President Trump mentioned that so for next week, he wants to increase tariffs or at least announce new tariffs on semiconductors and chips. That is some big news, although we don't have the specific details. Next week, President Trump could be announcing more tariffs on stocks like Nvda, on many semiconductors. And then President Trump said he wants to impose more tariffs on pharmaceuticals. He said initially they're going to be small tariffs, but after in 1 year, 1.5 years maximum, they're going to go up to about 150% and 250% to incentivize companies to build in the USA. So that's what the big guy, President Trump, has been saying. This is all very, very big news affecting the overall market. So what does all this mean for Tesla, SPY, and the others? Well, one thing that's worth mentioning is that we have this trend right here where we're just trading sideways between supply and demand. So as we hit the resistance at this upper trend line, we reject. As we hit support down here, we bounce, rejection, bounce, rejection, bounce, rejection, bounce. If we hold support here, we could try some kind of rebound, but we need to see Tesla get back above 311 and then 315. But if we continue to fall, we're going to be looking for a move back down towards the low 300s. Because we're rejecting off the 20 EMA, I think the odds do favor rejections here, and we could continue to fall back down towards the low 300s. So keep that in mind. That's going to be very, very important. We're kind of rejecting right here. and I think it's going to be very, very key for us. Now, with the whole market potentially selling off, I do think that we need Tesla to get back above 312-ish and then 315 to start bouncing. I do think we might touch that tomorrow and kind of consolidate like this, but if the market does start to decline, there's going to be a risk of Tesla retesting 300 to 302, and we'll see if we bounce or not. Otherwise, we are still favoring downside looking at the current time frame. So keep that in mind, at least for now. On top of this, the daily time frame is looking kind of weak. If you look at the daily, we're also indecisive and we're still favoring a test of our 200 EMA at 302. So I am favoring consolidation and a dip to 300 to 302, and we'll see if we bounce or not. So keep that in mind. As far as super micro goes, we're looking kind of, sorry, not super micro, SPY. I'm talking about SPY. This could also affect Tesla because we had a high up here. This also resembles kind of like a head and shoulders. There's like a left shoulder here, head. This is sort of like a right shoulder. And this could also drag us a lot lower, right? When you zoom out, you guys can see this quite clearly, how it's like a head and shoulders. This would be like your left shoulder, and our head would take us all the way down after this right shoulder develops. So here's what's going on. If you want to be a bull, you need to see SPY basically reclaim 630. If we get back above 630, we're looking for an attempt for 632. If you're a bear, you need to see us lose 626.5. That is the support right here we need to lose. If we lose 626.5, I see us dumping to 621 to fill that gap. My gut tells me this is like a lower high rejection. So we have to watch for confirmation depending on the news coming out tomorrow. But I do think we're going to be dumping to fill the gap near 620 very, very soon, right? I think very soon we're going to be coming down to 620. We'll see if we get one more bounce to 630 or not. But even if we bounce to 630, I still think we're going to be dumping to fill this gap towards 620 all over again. So whether we get a bounce or not, we'll see. Can we bounce and retest 632 to 635 and then reject, or do we just reject from here? Either we bounce a bit and then get a big rejection, or we just dump from here and continue to reject. Either way, I'm favoring even more downside. On the QQQ, it's the same thing essentially. So we basically had this high up here, rejection, made a lower high, rejected, and then we could be coming down to fill this gap around 553 to continue to fall. So it's still looking bearish. It's looking quite bearish, especially with chip stocks selling off. Now, if we get back above 563, we could try some kind of bounce move, but that's not looking as probable. Right now, it looks like there's a high. We came down, and a lower high came down. Might make another lower high before we start dumping to fill this gap. Whether we get a bounce or not, I still favor this gap fill to 553 very soon. And for the time being, the QQQ is favoring the downwards direction, so please keep that in mind. Now, as far as the IWM goes, we could be looking for 219 as a potential target. If that fails us, we're looking for a dump much lower. If we break past 222, we're looking for a bigger push. This might touch 222 and consolidate, still showing some strength compared to the other stocks out there. But if we can't hold above this, there's going to be a risk of us dumping lower all the way back down to 216. So keep that in mind. The downside risk is there, especially since we have a gap to fill in case we get a rejection. ES is rejecting unless we get back above 63, 62 to bounce back up to 6,400. And if we make lower highs here, the odds are going to be favoring a move all the way down towards 6280 as our very important target. So I think the odds favor, just to be very, very clear, even more downside. And I think that there's a good chance ES could be dipping. Whether we get a big bounce to 6,400 or not, I still think we favor these lows. And we're going to see a rejection either way, all the way back down towards the lows over here or below. Whether we get a bounce or not, we're favoring downside. With all the tariff talk by President Trump, that's one of the factors. The deadline's coming up on Thursday. NQ needs to get back about 23,300 to bounce. If not, we're also favoring the downwards direction towards 22,800. If we bounce, we could bounce and reject, or if not, we could just continue to fall. But I favor downside. Now, Bitcoin's on a downtrend, lower high, lower high, lower high. We're going to be watching 115,000 to see if we break past that or not. It's possible we try to push a little bit right back up over here, and we'll see if we reject back down to continue to fall back down to 111,000. So keep that in mind. Tesla's making lower highs here. It's continuing to reject. So we could be continuing to fall. If we get back above 310, it's going to be like a good sign. If not, we could be dumping. So I think the odds favor consolidation and dip back down towards 302. For Nvda, we had a high here, came down, made a lower high, and we're rejecting. As you could tell, we basically have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. And if we lose 174, we're looking for a dump back down. Now, if we get back above 180, we're looking for a bounce, but for now, we're making lower highs. So now we're favoring 174 or below. For Aapl, we're making lower highs. We got a rejection so far. Unless we get back above 206, we're going to be favoring a move back down towards 201 and then eventually back down to 198. For Netflix, We got rejections. We keep rejecting off our 20 EMA. Unless we get back above 1150, we're still favoring a move back down towards 1125. The downside risk is still there nonetheless. So keep that in mind, guys. There is still that downside risk. And for now, the market is still showing some weakness. For a few more, we have MSTR, which is making lower highs. Unless we get back above 387, we're still favoring consolidation and dip lower towards 366. Celsius is making lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, and we're favoring a move back down to 40. We'll see if buyers defend. Supermicro got a massive rejection. There is a left shoulder, head and right shoulder. Unless we get back above 55, we're going to be favoring a move back down towards 46. So keep that, in mind. Palantir looks kind of weak to me. We're still dipping. We have 73.5 as resistance. We could be dipping back down to 162.5. Might touch this resistance, and we'll see if we come back down to continue to decline towards 160. So keep that in mind. Rivian is looking weak here. It has a double top here. It might retest this level right here. So I'm going to be looking for a retest of essentially 12.25 to 12.5 before it continues to decline. So we could be looking for a move like that. SoFi is range bound. Every time we hit 20, we bounce. Every time we hit like the 22s, we reject. So it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we're just going to likely do this. Look for a test of 20, a little balance and consolidation, but then we could be dipping later on if this does resemble a head and shoulders. Overall, look for some consolidation tomorrow, then potentially a dip lower in the next upcoming days. AMD is not looking good. We're down quite a bit, down 5% after earnings. Unfortunately, export restrictions and the fact that they missed on EPS is not good news. Not really helping the expectations. If we don't break past 169, we're once again favoring this test right here around 162. If that fails us, we're looking for the low the very high 150s, for more downside. ARM is rejecting lower highs, lower lows, lower highs unless we get back above 143. We could retest 140 and then continue to decline back down to 135. PayPal's making lower highs and lower lows. Unless we get back above 169, we're going to be favoring a move back down to the low 66s. Sorry, 69. I was talking about 69 and 66, not 169. Coinbase, lower highs, lower lows, looking pretty weak here. We're going to see if we can get a small bounce right here because we're at support. Might try to retest like 310 or so. And if we can't hold above that, I do expect this to continue to dip to like the 280s. For Amazon, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. Unless we get back above 218, we're favoring a move down to like 212 and eventually the low 207s. Meta has a double top here, just to be frank, right? We have a double top rejection. I see this testing 756. We'll see if we balance a little bit before continuing to fill this gap towards the 740s. Google has a double top rejection. We're going to be watching 194. If it doesn't hold, we could be continuing to decline back down towards 191. Microsoft is making lower highs unless we get back above 531. We're also going to be favoring a bounce and a dip back down to about 521. And then for other places, we're seeing some more downside. So the VIX is making lower highs here. We're consolidating, and I think this may be dipping to 16.99. If that fails us, we're going to be dipping lower. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to bounce on the VIX. When I said we're going to dip lower, I'm talking about the market. If 16.99 fails us, the VIX is going to be dipping and the market's going to bounce. But if we bounce here, we could be looking for this gap fill later on, and that's going to cause the market to dip down. I think I meant to say that. I kind of misworded that. Excuse me, guys. But I do think that this might consolidate, could dip a little bit, but then we're going to be looking to see if we bounce near 16.99. Maybe the market pops a bit before this ends up dipping to fill that gap. And then this will basically pump to fill the gap when the market dips, most likely. The 10-year treasury yield is dipping. The dollar is starting to push a bit. If we get back above 98.9, we're looking for a bounce. Then, Celsius is dipping, so keep that in mind. So what's my view of the markets? Honestly, guys, I am leaning more bearish. We're making lower highs on SPY. We might consolidate. We'll see if we get some kind of balance or not. But ultimately, I do see us coming down to fill the gap around 621. And then for Tesla, we're not looking good, guys. We just keep making lower highs. And I need to see us reclaim these EMAs. Get back above 310 and basically 315. If we can't do this, we are once again going to be favoring a move lower back down towards 302 or below. So the odds still favor the downwards direction back down to 302. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Tesla's favoring consolidation tomorrow, then a dip lower to the low 300s, especially if the market starts dipping. And I want to give you guys a warning because Tesla's been showing some weakness ever since earnings. So, it is what it is. I just want to be very honest about that. And I appreciate you guys so much for watching these videos, but the odds still favor downside for Tesla stock. We might consolidate tomorrow morning and see some downside, so we'll see how it goes. I thank you all so much for listening, so please have a good rest of your guys' days. I'll be back very soon with another update. Until then, I wish you guys nothing but the best. I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Thank you for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.